So, I have on Devin's Nerd Fusion shirt because it came with me on vacation. What didn't come with me on vacation was my external webcam. So now we're using the one on the laptop, which isn't quite as good, but that's okay. It's a vacation stream. So my goal was to show you the Bahamas from the hotel room window, but all you get with this camera is light. So maybe it's the end times out there. Lots of light. I also realized I forgot to reset the stream topic. So if you hit topic on the commands right now, you'll get last week's topic. So I'll fix that real quick because things like that bother me. And then we'll get started talking about stuff. So today's topic, as I type it in, is how to find daily motivation and why it matters. I did a LinkedIn post a little bit ago, kind of on this, and the topic there was why some people don't seem to have any motivation. Yeah, the lighting's fine when it's pointing my way. It just doesn't work if I try and show you the pretty palm trees out the window. Oh well. Okay, so what was I going to talk about first? The Bahamas. So I was here like 8 years ago. Thank you, by the way, Hephaestus, for tuning in, and your 28-month ongoing support. I really appreciate it. One of my loyal mods. Plus a great local entrepreneur in Seattle. So the Bahamas. I was here 10 years ago. I went diving in a place called the Eczema Cays. Cay is the same as Key, which means island. Great place. This year we brought the family here. So the family's over there, out of sight. 2 cell phones and a laptop. 2 sets of earbuds. 1 person simply not listening. It's about normal. Right now I'm getting sideways eyes from a couple sets of people who wonder who I'm referring to. A few giggles. Hey Ethan, appreciate the streams. I have to hop on a work call. Yes, you should do that. You can catch the VOD later. All right. So I enjoyed coming here to dive. Very cool diving. But we came back, we stayed at the Atlantis Resort. The Atlantis styled itself when it was built 20-some years ago. They declared themselves the first 6-star hotel on Earth. They decided 5 stars weren't enough for them. They had 6. Now, 25 years later, if you walk around, it's starting to fall into ruin. Like the fancy concrete decorations they did are kind of cracking, and it kind of somebody built a $2 billion hotel down the beach, and so Atlantis is now like second rate. Burj Al Arab calls themselves 7 stars in Dubai. I bet that's true. Wait, really? What part? That they call themselves 7 stars, or that the Atlantis is starting to crumble a little bit? Both are true. We used to go there, a decade or 2 ago. I bet that's true. It's not like awful, but it's definitely showing its age. Like, it's long in the tooth. They've given up their manta rays. There are no manta rays here anymore. It's like half full. So the Atlantis can call themselves 5 stars now. Yes, they've definitely lost a star. They're like the restaurant in Ratatouille. They're down a star. So anyway, though, why not to come to the Bahamas? Well, because there's so many beaches in the world, and here you're kind of trapped. So the Atlantis, as they slowly circle the drain, which is ironic for a place named after being underwater, tries to hold you prisoner on their little island, and there's really nothing else to do here. And when we got here the first night, we went to the pizza place just for like quick food, and the pizza wasn't very good, But a 1 liter box of water, not even a bottle, a box, named Just Water, was 12 Bahamian dollars. Now you might think, well, that can't be too bad, right? Like Bahamian dollars. Yeah. Throw me the bottle. It was a bigger version of this called Just Water. So it was the double size version. It was 12 Bahama dollars. Except that it turns out that Bahama dollars are the same as US dollars. So they're telling me, by the way, Isaac, that this is Jaden Smith water, that's what makes it so expensive.
It's not good.
He says it's not good, and I agree with him.
It's so average.
It's so average. Yeah.
Dasani is better.
Yeah, Dasani is better, and that's a Coke product. But anyway, yeah. So the Bahamas, there's just better beaches. Now, I want to admit, this is totally a first world problem. And yeah, $12 for 1 liter at a restaurant of Jaden Smith bathwater. They're suggesting it's his bathwater. First world problem. I'm in the Bahamas in a hotel, enjoying a water park, eating food, drinking $12 water. Actually, we got reusable water bottles and keep filling them up down the hall. But that's because I'm cheap. First world problems. Still on the beach. When I'm done here, still going to the water park and to swim in the ocean. So, but what's my actual point? If you have a chance to go somewhere on a beach vacation, my God, Key West, Cabo, which I haven't been to yet, but I hear good things. Stay in America, right? Key West, Outer Banks, anywhere in Florida, pretty much. Hawaii, the Med, anywhere on the Mediterranean, because there'll at least be better food and you can get around and you can foreign culture it. The Bahamas isn't really foreign culture. It just kind of pretends to be. And they have different types of money that are still worth $1. Anywhere in Southeast Asia, the entire west coast of India, yes, people are listing many better places. So, okay. So that was like the quick Bahama vignette. Now, we did do some cool things here. We took a boat ride out where they have swimming pigs that you can feed. And it turns out that this is kind of self-referential, but you can feed pigs hot dogs. I just don't think you should tell them what's in them. But the pigs will come swim out to your boat if you offer a hot dog over the side. Then we swam with some stingrays and turtles, and we did some cool stuff. And they really do have a beach here that's mostly pink sand, so that's cool. And we saw some very, very expensive yachts. I posted some of that on LinkedIn. Which reminds me, there's a woman on LinkedIn I think you should all follow. I'm going to go get the link real quick. She's pretty cool. Her name's Dr. Julia DeGangi. She's a neuropsychologist out of Chicago. And she's doing like the 12 days of Christmas posts. But they're like 12 days of how to make your brain stronger and better. I want to find her other post. Yeah, here it is. All right. So I'm going to share a link to this in chat. And I'll put it in Discord too. And then we'll jump into motivation, which is what I promised to talk about today. But first, yes, she's in Chicago. So, failed to send. Huh, that's interesting. I'm not going to worry about that. We'll do it here. Hello, everyone. Okay, so there's that link. And I'll also put it in general chat. There. Check out this lady. She seems very smart. All right, I realize I've been a little unfocused, but I want to get some business out of the way. So we'll get focused right now on what I want to talk about today. Checking chat, see if there's anything there. Bahamas, I guess you're going to miss opening day tomorrow. I am. So Sean123 is back in Seattle. He knows the ski slopes where we ski together sometimes, open tomorrow. I won't get up there until this weekend. So I will be there. First ski day for me is probably going to be Saturday. Hey, T-Bone. Okay, so what do I actually want to talk about? I've been thinking about motivation and how much of a difference it makes. And how some people are unmotivated and it doesn't seem like they can find or be given motivation. Two things here. Number one, someone on my LinkedIn where I posted a thread about this had a pretty good point, which is motivation as we define it usually is the difference between short-term goals and long-term goals. So you want a piece of chocolate cake, you also want to be in shape. Do you have the chocolate cake and then work out more? Do you skip the chocolate cake and lose weight? It's like this balance. Same thing at work. Do you work a little extra or do you go home right at 5? That evening, do you catch up on email or read a business book or do you watch some Netflix? There's this trade-off. And what we think of as motivation is mostly people having a higher balance of long-term focus. So they're focused for the long term on whatever. Their careers, their economic earning potential, doing good in the world. They're investing in things that are going to pay off later at the price of things that feel good today. And we all do some trade-off of this. What I think is interesting, and I was discussing in chat about why I want to do this show. Feel free to ask questions or make comments. I'm just going to work off chat for today because it's easier than using the question app for a short stream. The specific point is if you can find the energy, the focus to do just a little more in your job, school, or career each day than the next person, there's a compound interest effect to this. In other words, everyone knows the stories of the people who somehow make brilliant decisions or have breakthrough ideas and then they're off to the races. But most people, almost everyone, and arguably even some of those people have breakthroughs, first had thousands of little increments to get there. And I've talked a lot about prioritization and the idea of doing the most important thing first in your day and prioritizing with this idea of eat that frog so that you're doing the most important thing early in the morning and making sure you get it done. Well, another key idea is if you can do just a little bit more than you otherwise would, just one more good thing a day, that's going to compound. So if you work 250 days a year, which is a normal work year, and you do one extra thing, either slightly better or slightly longer than others, that adds up. And when you do that over the course of a year and then a career, first you do 250 things slightly better than you would have, or 250 more things. And then over the course of 10 years, you do 2,500 more things. And I'm sure it's no surprise to any of you that while doing one thing slightly more or slightly better won't transform your life, doing 2,500 things more or better will put you in a different point in your career. So I think that's the key message of how to find, it's not how to find motivation, it's why to find motivation. And so how? How are you going to do this? Everybody's tired, days are long, people wear you down, bureaucracies get to you, you have low energy. If you're older, maybe you have kids, maybe you have a mortgage, maybe you have unhappy family members or an illness. How do you find that extra motivation? Well, that's a good question. Have you always been motivated or had times where you struggled for longer times? I have not always been motivated. I posted about this on LinkedIn this morning because this has been on my mind getting ready for this show. I was pretty unmotivated as a kid. I was very overweight. I grew up in a family. I didn't like school. I was like any other kid. I didn't want to go to school. Um, I liked my summers. I liked junk food. And so, I'd say 13 or 14, I was probably 50 pounds overweight, had average grades, and was pretty unmotivated and extremely unpopular. I was unpopular because I was smart enough to have a big mouth and not wise enough to keep it closed. And so those two things really didn't help. Plus, being overweight and not playing sports, being physically unattractive, turns out being a smartass and easy to pick on because you're fat, not a good combination. I'm 6'2". And so eventually, when I went to college at 17, I was 272 pounds. So you can figure out what 272 pounds and 6'2" is for like a body mass index. It's not attractive. I made a better door than a window. Let's say that. So I had to find the motivation to change some of that, to change my grades, and to change my weight. So anyway, how did I find that motivation? Well, in my case, grades are a great feedback system. They're numeric. So like when you put in a work, your grade goes up, you get a number, you get feedback, you get a letter grade, you get feedback, you get a GPA, you get admitted to college. Like it's feedback loop. So that's one way to find motivation is you get that snowball rolling down the hill and it picks up speed and mass as it goes. And that happened for me academically. But I think for everyone, the key to finding motivation is to find those small wins. In other words, very few of us have the motivation to undertake something that's going to take 30 or 40 years to pay off with no intermediate positive feedback. A few people like that exist, artists or whoever, who have a vision in their head from the day they're born about what it is they're going to do, and no matter how long it takes to get there, they're going to pound away on it. Actually, I'm going to find this. There's truth about this. There's a Harvard Business article called The Power of Small Wins. HBR, Power of Small Wins. I've looked this up before. I may have even shared it before. This is it's a 2011 study. Let me make sure I've got the right one. But this 2011 study, blah, blah, blah. I'm making sure I have the right thing. So this is a long read, but essentially it shows that if you can set things up at work so that people have a small win each day, it snowballs and they come in the next day eager to work versus coming in disempowered. So the same thing works in your personal life. I'm going to put this in chat 1 second. By the way, yep, Harvard Business, I see Awesome just posted it too. Thank you, Awesome. Power of small wins works. And not only does Harvard Business Review say it, I think it works in your personal life. That's an article about work and setting up your workplace, but that works in your personal life. And so you're looking for a way to start getting these small wins. And the key is, when you've had those small wins, harnessing that motivation to realize that if I want to keep them coming, I have the option. I don't have to, but I have the option to do a little more each day and try to do it a little better. And why does that matter? Well, again, it's a compound interest effect. The person in Discord correctly identified it's the same as compound interest on finances. Now, Einstein, smarter than me, said that the miracle, the biggest miracle of the modern world was compound interest. It wasn't splitting the atom, which is what he figured out. It was compound interest because of the way things build over time. Same thing happens in your success in your career. I never had a single big break or breakthrough. I had many breaks. Many things went my way. And I'm not the most successful person out there by any means. Elon Musk was declared Times Man of the Year this year. Person of the Year. But It's the compounding of all those little positive wins. So what can each of you do that matters? Find a way to start winning. Find a way to start having small wins in your personal life, your professional life, your physical and emotional life, any piece of your life, because it spreads. And I'll relay a story there. Once I decided to lose weight after college, I lost a few pounds, but then I could see it on the scale, and that turned it into numbers, just like I said with grades. And so now every day I went to the gym, I could see I was down a quarter pound or half pound, or if I was up half a pound, I'd be like, no, that's not happening to me. And I could see the numbers go down. And then it became like, wow, I can't wait to get to the gym tomorrow to try and drive that number down. Okay, great. That worked for me. But I've now leveraged that for the rest of my life, because even though I lost weight 25 years ago, it convinced me, oh, look, I can make changes in my life. I can make hard changes that I used to fail at. I tried to lose, look, I was first told I was fat when I was 8 by my sister, right? She looked at me and said, hey, look at that belly, you're fat. And so I didn't even know, right? I didn't know. You're a kid. No one knows. And then somebody's like, you're fat. Look at that belly. Well, so I had tried to lose weight many times unsuccessfully. But then I succeeded. And as I got that rolling, as I got that feedback that I could see, then it became motivation. And then key, once I learned I could do that, I applied it to other areas. I'm like, well, most people can't conquer their weight. We know that, right? There's lots of Americans and lots of other people who want to be thinner, more fit. And they can't find a way to do it. But once I had found it, I'm like, oh, I can make changes in my life. So then I started making other changes. Now, doesn't mean I don't struggle still with lots of changes I want to make. But this is basically the pattern you can take away, which is find one place in your life to start winning. And then when you feel good about that, use that as leverage and motivation to make other changes and to give a little more effort. So as all of you know, I'm retired. It's why I'm sitting in the Atlantis in the Bahamas complaining about the overpriced water and the lack of things to do. Why we're all very happy, ironically, that we'll be flying out of here tomorrow. But I totally lost that train of thought. I am so sorry. I got here, and yet I still have motivation to work. Right? I working on my book, working with coaching a bunch of people, doing these shows, posting on LinkedIn, being involved in that community, consulting with Amazon a few hours a week. I have motivation to do all of that, basically because I know my hair's sticking up. I started growing my hair longer, and now it actually doesn't just stay where it's been put. Have I announced the topics my book will cover? I have, but I'll talk about that in a second. So, bottom line is you find those small wins and they keep you motivated. Now, I can't stop. Like, I have the right to stop. I have the ability to stop. I don't have the need to work, but I love it. And you can get there. And that's my encouragement to you. Start with those small incremental wins, pile them up, and they will become a snowball for you. So, have I announced the topics my book will cover? The book will be centered on the magic loop, which many of you already know. And then it will talk about, magic loop here in chat. It'll be centered on the magic loop, but then it will talk about all the things that go wrong with that. Basically, it's going to be based off of key questions that I hear in chat or in Discord or in coaching all the time. Like, What do I do about this coworker who's driving me nuts? Or what if my boss exploits me? They're mostly negative, to be fair. Most of the questions are phrased in the negative. My boss exploits me. How do I get promoted? I don't like my coworker. I'm bored with these projects. It's going to be all of those questions and complaints I hear, and then hung off the magic loop as the central solution to them, as well as specific advice on each question. So, what does BLNA mean? BLNA means Black, Latino or Latinx, Latinx, and Native American. That's what it means. So, and yes, K21, I have explained why not to visit the Bahamas yet. Essentially, the Bahamas is a bunch of small islands with mostly private housing on them. They're flat and hot and not much to do. And so you travel a long way and go through the trouble of getting into a foreign country in order to get on an island that is no different than going to the beach in Florida, as far as I can tell, except since you're on an island, it's higher prices for everything. I guess there are some advantages. Some of my stepkids were here. The drinking age is 18 and the rum is very cheap. So if those two things are really central to you, there are advantages of coming to the Bahamas. Oh yeah, as a European, so we're all wrapped around in America. Obviously, diversity in the workforce is a big issue. And by the way, I've been harsh on the Bahamas as I often am about things. This is a fine place. It's just there are better places, and most of you are limited to like 2 weeks of vacation, 3 weeks of vacation a year, and maybe one big trip. I don't want you to waste it on a place that I would give like a B minus. It's not a shitty place. There's no C, there's no D here. It's not awful. It's fine. It's good. It's sunny. Gonna go swim in the ocean, the warm ocean in December in a few minutes. But
Maui is still cooler. But Maui is still cooler.
But yes, my voice in the background here says, but Maui is still cooler. So if you're gonna go to an island, go to an American island in this case. What is my favorite place? That's a lot of context, but my favorite places to vacation are pretty wild and icy. So they're Iceland, New Zealand, and Switzerland, all of which are mountains and glaciers, basically, and hiking. I am not a beach person. I am too hyperactive. So I can do beaches, but there have to be like crazy waves, pretty much. And there aren't much for waves here. So anyway. So what else? Questions? Do people have questions about either travel and islands? I'll take those. I see them in chat. Or about motivation and why it matters. The point, again, is figure out how to do things a little bit better each day, and that adds up across your life. Just do one more thing. I normally am saying prioritization. Make sure you do your most important thing in the morning. Still agree with that. Now I'm adding to it and saying find some way you can have small wins so that at the end of the day you're ready to do one more thing, invest this much more in yourself. Read a book, listen to a podcast, view one of these videos, participate in Discord, ask questions, learn, read something on LinkedIn, do more for work, reach out to a coworker, network. The list of things you can choose to do is infinite. Go for a walk, go for a swim, get some exercise, eat something healthy, go outside. Do any one thing that improves your life, and that will snowball. Okay, if you have motivation, how do you cultivate discipline? That's a good question. What is the difference between motivation and discipline? I think discipline is what you have, the resource you have to have inside when you don't have motivation or when you have obstacles to your motivation. It's the grit or the fortitude to say, I know I don't feel like this right now, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So discipline to me is that ability to make the trade-off of what's better for the long term in place of what's better for the short term. Do you think about your big picture outcomes, big objectives in the back of your mind on a day-to-day basis? Yes. I'm usually aiming for something, not always directly, but I'm usually aiming towards some larger goal. And so I'm normally thinking about the long term. I'm kind of obsessed with it though. A few weeks ago, some of you were around when we did the test. I posted the link to the guy who has the time study about do you spend your time thinking about your past in a positive or negative way, thinking about the present or thinking about the future. And I'm very future oriented. And I would say I because I'm so future oriented, I'm normally thinking about the goals. So you don't have to be nearly as future obsessed as I am. So, okay. How do you stay motivated if your whole team at work quits within 2 weeks and you're the last piece left? Think of that as opportunity. How you think about that is, man, either go find another job yourself or think like, I have the chance to shine now because everybody else is gone. There was an old role-playing game, a few of you may know it, called Paranoia. And in Paranoia, the idea was basically to kill off all the other players. And the funniest part was at the end of it, you would be debriefed by like the powers that be, the NPCs played by the game master. And the best thing you could possibly say was, I speak without fear of contradiction. And it wasn't because what you were about to say was true or because you had evidence. So that was the winning move. I speak without fear of contradiction. Hello, happy holidays. I was taught that you can't rely on motivation. Instead, rely on habits and discipline. So it's a good question. How do habits support discipline, and discipline substitutes for motivation? But if you're motivated, it really means you want to do something, and so you don't need discipline. Like, discipline is what you need when you don't want to do something. And motivation is what you need when you don't have discipline. They're kind of two sides of a coin. And I don't think, I'm watching disassembled parts of my snorkel being pulled out of a suitcase because we're about to go snorkeling. So it's two sides of a coin there. And how you motivation, I think, comes from wanting something, and discipline comes from believing that it's necessary. So this is a good Dr. K question or somebody else. I'll go do some investigation of it. But I think of them as two different things. They are complementary. So they're peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter and chocolate, if you prefer. How about if you feel burned out from your current job and you recently got reached out by a firm to interview with them? Well, I think you can always interview somewhere else if you want. Like, it's complimentary, like peaches on pizza. I have had peach pizza. It's interesting. Doesn't motivation turn everything into natural habits? It might. It's a good question. Have you seen highly motivated people take a break months plus from their job to pursue other revenue streams or pivot? Success stories, cautionary tales. I have. I've seen both success stories and cautionary tales. So briefly, I've seen success stories when people pivot. Yes, I've seen peaches on pizzas on a grill. A grilled pizza crust with grilled peaches on it. It was pretty all right. Hold that thought 1 second. What's the departure plan? Are you guys?
We're just getting ready. So if you're not ready, we'll meet you there, and if you are ready, you'll come with us.
Okay. I'm checking my time limit before snorkeling here. So going back to the questions, awesome. Your question's complicated. Pushing through burnout. With burnout, you basically need to step back somehow and find your internal energy. So energy is kind of a, right? Why are people unmotivated? Well, part of it is they're so tired and feel beaten down. They lack mental energy. And burnout is like a persistent form of lacking mental energy. So if you want to get over burnout, you're going to have to find a source of rest and then new mental energy. And then you can interview or not. That's up to you, depending on what your life goals are. But if it's someplace you've always wanted to work, I would go interview. Why not? Now, the second question was, have I seen people take a break and try stuff? Yes. So I have seen people certainly leave their jobs, start companies, and have tremendous success. I can also think of someone top of my mind who had a vision. He was going to build a Twitch show, like a professional Twitch show with a cast and a game show type concept. And he rented a space and got all these cameras and lights and got production assistants and blew all his money and had to go get a regular job. And it didn't work. And so that's one example of someone who thought they understood Twitch and they were going to take it to the next level with like a professionally produced show and nice cameras and a sound studio, and it turned out not to work at all. My book is not done yet, so I don't know when it comes out. Sometime, probably the end of 2022 would be my best bet right now, because the publishing process takes a very long time. Not the Austin show. I don't know what that is. Okay, but apparently my stepson does know because he's laughing. So fill me in. What's the Austin show?
Not what you were explaining.
Not what I was explaining. That's the only explanation I'm getting right now.
Not professional.
Not professional. Okay. Let's see. What would you say one should prioritize in trying to improve their lives? Anything that's easy for you first. Get easy, simple wins that you can build on. Start simple. Have success. Understand that you can be successful improving your life and finding improvements and motivation and accomplishing your goals, and then build on that. Do not shoot for unreachable goals right away. Well, I'm overweight and I haven't gotten through college and I don't have a significant other and I'm poor. By this time next week, I'm going to have my PhD, a great new job, a beautiful spouse type thing of my choosing, and a mansion. This won't happen. So you need to pick some place to get started where you can see progress. Overproduced stuff doesn't do well on Twitch. Yes, that's true. Oh, it was the Raj Patel show. Got it. That I do know about. Okay. Oh, awesome. You're starting to turn negative. You're like, we used to have a guy around and chat a lot in Discord I haven't seen in a while, Pashi. And everything he said was like a bummer downer. You got to fight that, brother. You can spiral in either way. Look, this is true. I've been talking about find your motivation, find success. You can find daily defeat and slowly each day, like spend at the end of the day feeling defeated and counting your defeats and how screwed you are, and tomorrow will be worse, and the next day will be worse, and the next day will be worse. You can totally make your own hell. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing awesome, but like you're on that teeter-totter and kind of working on it. And so I see you acknowledge it. And if you choose to feed that spiral and spend your evenings counting what sucked rather than what could be good or what you control, you can completely drive your truck off the cliff. No question. So all you need is small wins like the military. Well, that's interesting. The military does only need small wins. One of my favorite stories. Where am I meeting you?
On that beach where people were snorkeling.
Okay. I'll see you out there in 20 minutes or so. So, George Washington, if you look at his military record, right, founding father of the United States, considered the general who ran our army and fought the Revolution, lost most of the battles he was in. In fact, if you look at them, even the ones that are considered victories, he and his army ended up retreating. They just killed a lot of British or wounded a lot of British before they ran away. But what he never did was allow the British to trap his army and actually destroy it. So he kept surviving to fight another day. And eventually, the British Empire, which had to keep sending troops from England on wooden ships at great expense and long distance and slow times, got sick of fighting. And since they couldn't win, that became losing. And so it is true. Sometimes small wins are good enough. And for that matter, let's be honest, okay? This is not political. Hello, Taliban, right? So America, greatest military superpower on earth in theory, fights in Afghanistan for 20 effing years. Who ran Afghanistan before we win? Who runs Afghanistan now? Okay, so so that's the power of small wins right there. So that's because let's ask, what battles against the American military did the Taliban directly, gun for gun, fight for fight, win? There are a few. Someone will point one out, but very, very few. There's very few cases where like U.S. armed unit on the ground and in the air, Taliban armed unit, bump heads, more Americans die than Taliban. That's like basically bupkis. But yet, 20 years later, who runs the country? Same people. Who doesn't run the country? Us, right? So small wins, yeah. All right. There you go. All right. Maybe we shouldn't have gone to a place called the Graveyard of Empires. That is so true. When I went to India years ago, I went to Bangalore and I was touring around and I went to the church where Winston Churchill, apparently in his military unit, when he was a very young, like new lieutenant, had their home base. And there were all these commemoratives to dead British officers. And where did they die in like 1905? Afghanistan. Where are the Rambo movies set? Because it's about the Russians fighting the Russians when the Afghanis were our allies. So yeah, the Russians went there, got nowhere, and then we thought it was a good idea, we'd go. Yeah. Anyway, we're way off in the weeds. I think I've made my point for today, but I'm going to recap it because a lot of viewers have come in. And then I'm going to go. The point today is very simple. This is like your soundbite, clip it, ship it summary. Each day, if you can build on what you've done in the previous days and in your life that has been good, or find the discipline and the energy to do one more positive thing at the end of the day and rack it up towards your future so that you will feel like you're successful and start building a list of extra stuff you've done over the life of your career that acts like compound interest and changes the trajectory of your entire professional career. So the one extra thing you do today, whether it's listen to an educational podcast, tune in here, read something on LinkedIn, read a book, read a blog, get some exercise, eat healthy, reach out to a colleague and network. It doesn't matter what the thing you do is. Deliver one more item at work. Deliver one more piece of a project or one more page of a report. All of those add up. And if you do one a day, at the end of a week it's 5, and at the end of a month it's 30, and at the end of a year it's 250, and at the end of a decade it's 2,500, and at the end of that decade you are in a completely different place than you are in today. Plus, you will feel more and more powerful and successful and be stronger. And it's a compound feedback because today, that one thing doesn't put you very far ahead of the person next to you. But over time, it just grows and grows. And that's where pay and promotion and opportunity and network all come from. So there's your soundbite quick summary of the reason to find the motivation, whatever it takes, to do a little bit more each day than the person next to you than you otherwise would. Doesn't take that long. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Doesn't have to be your whole evening. But as you put in that little bit extra, it makes a huge difference. And it adds up. And you can do that and find, you can start with what's easy, by the way. If it's easiest for you to read and learn, do that. If it's easiest for you to do one more email, or to write one more page of a report, or to do one more thing at work, do that. If it's easiest for you to build your network a little and be social and reach out to people, if that's your gift and skill set, do that. You don't have to be good at everything. What you have to do is more than the dead minimum. And so many people do the least they can get away with, and then they crawl off to hide, unmotivated and hating the world and being depressed and telling each other how bad everything sucks. Well, I can't make you not do that. I can just tell you there's a better way. And so with that, my better way lies on the beach. I'll be back next week. I'll see you soon. Thank you for coming out. Join.